What's good people, and welcome back to the channel here on Crewboy Productions. My name is BK, and this is the Silly, Nerdy, and Wordy Podcast. Now, this is episode 96, Dune Part 1 from 2021. As my Nerdy Blu-ray Rewatch series continues, I'll be getting into this film here and what's going on, everybody. Hope everybody is doing very well. Glad to be back with you doing another episode for you. Thank you to all the listeners on the podcast feeds, those of you who are listening only, listening and watching full episodes and shorts. Thank you very much. Glad to be back with you. And so today I'll be getting into this Dune Part 1 as I'll be taking a look back at this, as I did not review this back in this time it came out because I wasn't doing this podcast. So I'll be getting into my thoughts about this film, both on screen and mostly on screen, a little bit of technical things. And also, before I get into the review of this, I'm going to start it off with a nerdy note talking about the cast of this film in terms of how they are involved in major IPs across major movie franchises. I will have chapters in this, so you can definitely skip to where I'm talking about the film itself. So that's where I'm going to start with, and let's get into a nerdy note. So the cast of this film, first, it is directed by Denis Villeneuve. He is the director of Dune Part 1, 2, and 3. And I want to talk about this cast before I get into this film, Dune Part 1. Now, the cast includes Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, Josh Brolin, Javier Bardem, Jason Momoa, Oscar Isaac, Rebecca Ferguson, Stellan Skarsgård. Those are just a couple of them. I want to talk about them from the perspective of how these actors that I just named, they are in big movie franchises and big stuff on TV as well. Let's go with ladies first. So Zendaya. She is in this film, this Dune franchise, but also she is in the MCU Spider-Man film, so she's getting the Marvel money. And then also she's got her show Euphoria on HBO Max. Then we go to Rebecca Ferguson. Of course, she is in a couple of Mission Impossible films, so she's getting the Mission Impossible money there from Paramount. And then she's in these Dune films as well. And then also on the TV side, she is on her Apple TV show, which I think I saw they're just announcing the final season of her show, Silo, on Apple TV. I haven't watched it, but it's done pretty well. So she's doing those things. And then let's talk about Javier Bardem. He is in these Dune movies. He is also in the James Bond franchise, as he was the villain in the James Bond film Skyfall. So big things there in big movie franchise. And then Jason Momoa. He's in a lot of great IPs as well. Obviously, he is in this first Dune film, but also he's in the DC universe, the DCEU, as he was Aquaman. And then he's coming back and going to be in the DCU again with DC. He's going to be Lobo in the upcoming Supergirl film that will be releasing in July of 2026. And then also on the TV side, he had his Apple TV show C, which was great. I enjoyed it. And I believe he does have another Apple TV show that is out now, recently came out late last year in 2025. So he's in a big franchise. And then Stellan Skarsgård, he's in a lot of stuff as well. He's in these Dune movies. He's also in Star Wars with Andor Season 1 and Season 2 as Luthen Rael. And then also he's in the Marvel MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe, as he has played Dr. Selvig in the Thor films as well as some Avengers films. So am I missing anyone? Oscar Isaac, he is also in the first Dune film, but he's also in Star Wars, Poe Dameron, and then he is also with Marvel as Moonlight, And then he is also in the Spider-Man universe with Sony as he voices Miguel O'Hara in Across the Spider-Verse, the animated film. So these actors are in a lot of big movie franchises, and I just wanted to point that out. I'm sure many of you already knew that, or maybe you didn't, but now you do. So just looking at this cover, it just came to mind like these people are involved in a lot of these different movies that we all have seen, these big franchises that we all love to see, and they'll be in some of those movies later this year. Okay, now let's get into the Dune Part 1 film from 2021. I did see this back in 2021, and this was during COVID times. So I believe this film released in, I want to say possibly released in theaters a little bit as well as on HBO Max. I didn't see it in theaters, unfortunately, because we were in that time period. So I saw it on HBO Max. So I didn't get to see this film in theaters. I did see Dune Part 2 in theaters, enjoyed that film. I'll get into that later. But that is my history with this film, and obviously I will be seeing Dune Part 3 later this year in 2026 in December, unless Warner Brothers decides to move the date, because right now Avengers Doomsday and Dune Part 3 are scheduled to come out on the same day, December 18th, 2026. We will see if any of them decides to budge on their release date. But I enjoyed the film on the first time around. The second time around, I thought this was a pretty great film. There was just a few slow parts here and there in terms of the pacing of it. But I feel like the film certainly got better as it went along. And you can clearly see there is a clear separation of a beginning, of a middle, of an end of this film in terms of how it starts, in terms of some technical things. The wardrobe, excellent. The sets, they're massive. There's lots of cinematography shots in here. You can pause it and put a movie poster on your wall if you want to. So many great things. And also some things in terms of when Paul Atreides, Timothy Chalamet's character, and Rebecca Ferguson's character, they're sitting and having breakfast before they, go and have this meeting with the pomp and circumstance. She's wanting him to practice his voice and tell him, give me the water. The intensity in that moment of the two actors, of their eyes as they're doing that, really love that as well. And then also there are moments when Paul Atreides is walking on the beach. It's very brief, but it's a great shot of him walking. And then when he has the meeting with the Bene Gesserit, with the one person in the room, before his mom comes in, he's just standing there, a very strong stance as he's standing there. It's just a small thing. And then also I want to say, in terms of story-wise, you see a bit of foreshadowing in terms of what Timothy Chalamet's character went through, which prepared him for what his character had to do later on in the film. In terms of his character watching those videos about the sandworms and the sandwalk and just his education and learning that, and then his sword training, his sword fighting, in terms of his combat training, and then his mom training him with the Bene Gesserit in terms of using the voice, the language, the silent language, doing all of that. All of that came into play later in the film as he had to utilize all those skills as they had the attack on their house and they had to leave. And there was just the two of them, and so he had to implement those skills as well, using all of those things later in the film when they were in the desert and doing the sand walk, when he had to have the trial by combat, which he eventually won. So all of those things that he was doing earlier in the film definitely came into play much later in the film. Another thing is Zendaya's character. She starts the movie off talking, but she had limited screen time, less dialogue, but she had a presence, and it was impactful. And obviously she has more screen time, she has more lines in the second film, probably in the third film as well. But just something to point out. Just because you're not talking a lot, you don't have a lot of dialogue, but what you can do is make it impactful when you are on screen. And that's exactly what she did with her character in this first Dune Part One film. So that's something I wanted to mention in that as well. And then also there's some things in this film in terms of the Bene Gesserit that we were able to see that they set up in this film in terms of a peek into that world that eventually set up the Dune Prophecy show that is on HBO Max season 1. And then we got more into that in the actual show. Enjoyed that show. And of course, Dune Prophecy Season 2 is currently in production right now. And I believe Season 2 will be releasing on HBO Max later this year in 2026, I think. But in terms of Dune Part 1, seeing just a little bit into that, and then it went into it more deeper in the show in Season 1. Like I said, Season 2 is currently in production. The cast and crew have shown some stuff on their social media talking about them currently filming the second season of Dune Prophecy Season 2 right now. I like this film. It just definitely build, and there's a lot of great things. The sound is great in this film. Hans Zimmer is the composer for this film, for both the first two films and possibly a third film, and I just really enjoyed what they did with this film. It's a massive scope, and I enjoyed the second film, but I won't talk about that until I rewatch that film. So I think that's all I'm going to have to say about it. It's definitely great on the second rewatch, and as the film ends, when Zendaya's character says it's just the beginning, it literally is. Kind of expands on it. And I like how they're just kind of walking and then the film ends. It kind of almost reminds me a little bit about Lord of the Rings as Sam and Frodo are walking. Of course, they're walking down the mountains, and then that film ends. And of course, we go on a journey with film number 2 and film number 3. Kind of the same thing, just a little bit of a comparison of what this film is doing with Dune Part 1 ending. Of course, we got Dune Part 2, and then we're getting Dune Part 3 later this year. So I like the film. I hope you enjoyed it. What do you think about Dune Part 1? Did you see Dune Part 1 on HBO Max? Were you able to get to the theater during that COVID time and actually go and see it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Did you enjoy this film? Have you seen the film? Or do you just like the original films and don't care too much for these newer films? Let me know in the comments if you like these type of details. Subscribe to the channel here on Crewboy Productions. You can follow the podcast on the podcast feed. Just search for the Silly, Nerdy, and Wordy podcast and follow the podcast there. As I am continuing in my Nerdy Rewatch series, I am just going to different movies. Of course, I will be doing Dune Part 2, of course, the Blu-ray. I'm going to try to get that done before the third film comes out later this year. Of course, I'm going through the Harry Potter films. I'm going through the Lord of the Rings films. I will get to the Hunger Games films. There's a lot of other things that I have that I'll get to. For instance, I'm looking at my Twilight picture right now because I have those Blu-rays as well and the bonus features. So I'll be getting into Twilight eventually at some point. So I have a lot of movies and a lot of movies that I have purchased that I'm going to get through. I have the John Wick films. So I'll be getting into a lot of those things as time goes on. I'm also on TikTok as well for the shorts. You can follow me there at Nerdy Podcaster 124 for the shorts. I put those there as well. So that's all I'm going to have for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. And I hope all of you have good vibes for the rest of your day. And until next time, we will talk soon.